little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Friends. It was a super sunny day and Dolly the ladybird sat staring out of the window. I'm going to eat breakfast, she thought, and then I'll go for a walk in the meadow. She decided to take her wheelbarrow with her. I wonder if I'll find something interesting to take home in my wheelbarrow, she thought to herself. Goodness me, said Dolly. What a lovely red cherry. That's just perfect for my lunch. She tried to lift the cherry into her wheelbarrow, but it was far too heavy. Too heavy for one little ladybird. Just then, Berry the snail appeared. Why the sad face, ladybird? Asked Berry. I can't lift this cherry into my wheelbarrow, Dolly replied. Don't cry, I'll help you, Berry said with a smile. And the two of them picked the cherry up with no trouble at all. Dolly set straight off home with the juicy cherry. Now it was Berry who looked sad. Don't you want to share the cherry with me? The snail said, and stamped his little foot. I did help you. But I found it first, Dolly snapped. You're not having any, it's mine. Berry was very upset. The two of them started to fight over the cherry. It's mine, shouted Dolly. That's not fair, Berry shouted back. They pushed and pulled the cherry until it split in two. Berry and Dolly plopped to the ground. They were very surprised when a green grub crawled out of the cherry.
What have you done to my cherry?
He grumbled.
That cherry was my home. Oh, don't look so upset,
the grub said.
I know where we can find plenty more. You can eat cherries while I find a new home for myself.
Dolly helped the grub into her wheelbarrow, and they all set off to look for the cherry tree. When they arrived, they found the ground around the cherry tree was covered in ripe red fruit. Berry and Dolly jumped for joy. The grub fell fast asleep while Berry and Dolly munched away on fresh cherries, and the time soon flew by. It was getting late, so they decided to go home, but this time with 2 cherries. One for Dolly and one for Berry. The sun was setting by the time they reached Berry's house. They took his cherry out of the wheelbarrow and said goodbye. Berry went inside and waved to Dolly from the window. Berry soon fell fast asleep after such an exciting day. The little snail dreamt about playing in cherries with Dolly and eating until their tummies were full. Then Dolly got back home and went straight to bed. From that day on, Berry and Dolly were the best of friends.
Berry Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Earache. It was a sunny autumn afternoon and Dolly decided to go and see her friend Berry. I'm going down to the stream to collect pebbles. Do you want to come? But Berry didn't feel like going out to play. I don't know, Dolly. I'm very cold and I've got a headache and my ears really hurt. Oh, Berry, your ears are all red, Dolly said. And you've got a temperature. I'll fly and fetch Dr. Owl. The ladybird flew straight to Dr. Owl's tree. Dr. Owl, you need to come quickly. Berry feels very poorly. Dr. Owl quickly packed his doctor's bag, put on his white coat and hurried to see the sickly snail. Hello there, Berry. Let me have a look at you. I need to listen to your chest. So Berry took off his pyjama top and breathed in like the doctor said. Open wide. I need to look at your throat now. I don't want to, Berry snapped. But I have to see if it's red or not, Dr. Owl explained, and shone a torch down the little snail's throat. And now I'll take a peek inside your ear. This was really too much for Berry. He started to cry and clamped his hands over his ears. Don't be silly, Berry. It won't hurt a bit. And Dolly held Berry's hand to make him feel better. She was right. It didn't hurt a bit. Well, Berry, Dr. Owl explained, you've bad earache. You've gone and caught a nasty cold. You need to have a spoonful of this medicine every day. Drink lots of sweet tea and put bags of warm wheat on your ears. Berry's friends came to help him right away. Balthazar brought honey, Flutter brought chamomile flowers, and Stanley brought rose hips, and they made tea for the patient. Dolly warmed the wheat in a pan and poured it into little cloth bags. Hold these on your ears until they cool down. Berry put the bags on and didn't take them off until they cooled down. Next morning, Dolly found a handful of shiny pebbles on Berry's table. Wow, Berry, lovely pebbles. Who gave you these? I found them down by the stream, Berry said proudly. You went down to the stream? Dolly asked angrily. That was very silly, Berry. You're still not better. You'll get sick again. And Dolly was right. Berry was soon back in bed with a temperature. His little friends came to visit him every day. They read him stories and put on puppet shows. But just as Berry started to get better, Dolly started feeling worse. Now she'd got earache, and this time Berry took care of Dolly. He made her tea and warmed the wheat bags for her ears. Now it was time for Dr. Owl to pay Dolly a visit. Gracious me! It seems we have a new patient. I think you must have caught it from Berry. He told Dolly exactly what to do. Then he took another quick look at Berry. You look well enough, but I'll examine you just in case. Everything's fine. You've made a full recovery, little snail. Another few days passed. Dolly did as she was told and took her medicine. She drank plenty of tea and stayed in bed, and she soon felt much better. Dr. Owl came to see her one last time and told her she was fine. So now we can go down to the stream together and collect pebbles. Berry was very excited. Hooray! Let's all go down to the stream! Dr. Owl's 3 chicks tweeted. Remember to dress up nice and warm. It's cold outside. But there was no need to warn Dolly and Berry. They both wore a scarf, a hat and warm boots. They stayed and played until it got dark and collected a whole bucket full of shiny pebbles.
Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The rainbow. It was a rainy summer day. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the snail sat sadly underneath a giant leaf. Then the sun came out and the sky was blue again. But the shower didn't stop, and soon a colourful rainbow stretched across the sky. "It's beautiful!" they shouted. Berry thought it would be a good idea to climb up the rainbow and slide down on the other side. But his first try didn't work. "I think I'll try from the other side," he said. "Trust me, you can't climb a rainbow," Dolly said to the excited snail. But then Berry came up with a new plan. "I'll use a ladder." "Oh, Berry, I don't think it's a good idea," Dolly said anxiously. Dolly was right, and Berry was angry. Dolly tried to distract her friend. "Come and play something else." But Berry still didn't give up. "Look, Dolly, I'm sure I can jump on top of it from here." But that idea didn't work either. Dolly ran over to Berry. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Berry sulked. Berry was very sad, and Dolly tried everything to cheer him up. "I got you some flowers," she said kindly, but Berry couldn't be comforted. Then the rain dried up and the rainbow disappeared. They walked home hand in hand, and Dolly said nice things to the little snail. "Chin up, Berry. It's your birthday the day after tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll get some super presents." Dolly had a great idea when she got home. "I'll make a rainbow slide for Berry's birthday," she said to herself. "Then his dream can come true and he can slide down a rainbow." Balthazar the bee and Flutter the butterfly helped her. Balthazar, Dolly and Flutter painted the slide with colourful paint, wrapped it in yellow paper and tied it up with a blue ribbon. The three friends even baked a cake for Berry. When the time came, Balthazar and Flutter took Berry to Dolly's house, where everything was ready for the birthday party.
"Let's give him his presents,"
yelled Balthazar, and Dolly gave Berry the chocolate cake. "A real rainbow! A rainbow slide! Can I try the slide?" "Sure you can," Dolly replied. Berry liked the rainbow slide very much. He slid on it again and again. Flutter and Balthazar were so happy they started to dance. "You know, Dolly," said Berry, "it really is a nice present. Thank you." Lots of friends joined in the birthday celebrations. There was Leapy the grasshopper, Eddie the potato beetle, Zephyr the dragonfly, and even Stanley the stag beetle came. The little snail let everybody try his new slide. Berry, Dolly, and their friends played on the slide until it got dark. Berry went to bed very happy that day. "What a wonderful birthday I've had," he sighed with a smile.
Berry Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The kite. Berry the snail was still asleep when Dolly the ladybird knocked on his window. Good morning, Berry. Let's make a kite. Dolly drew a kite and Berry cut it out. They decorated it with colourful ribbons and then they tied it to a long piece of string. Let's see if it flies, Dolly said. They took each other's hand and set off to fly their kite. But no matter how hard the two of them tried, the kite just wouldn't fly. I'll climb up this tree and try it from there. Maybe then it'll fly, Dolly explained. But the kite just fell to the ground again. All of a sudden, the wind blew up and carried the kite away and took Dolly with it. Berry! Help! Berry climbed up the tree and grabbed Dolly's feet, but he couldn't pull her back, so now the two of them were flying. Balthazar the bee flew by. He caught hold of Berry's feet, but he couldn't pull the kite back either, so now the three of them were flying. Eddie the potato beetle was sitting on top of a pine tree. He caught Balthazar's feet, so now the four of them were flying.
Leapy! Help!
Balthazar cried to the grasshopper, who was just hopping by. Leapy caught Eddie's feet, so now the five of them were flying. The wind got stronger and stronger. Flutter the butterfly flew by. She caught Leapy's feet, so now the six of them were flying. Stanley the stag beetle and Zephyr the dragonfly looked at their friends in despair. Oh dear, the wind's blowing us right into the forest. The kite got tangled in the top of a tall tree and they landed in the treetops. The wind died down and the sun came out. Berry gave the ladybird a worried look. Dolly, I can't fly. How am I going to get down from here? Don't worry, Berry. I'm sure we'll think of something. I know what to do. Jump into this blanket, Berry. Don't be afraid. You won't hurt yourself. Berry jumped down into the blanket and bounced back up in the air. Look at me. This is fun. We want to try, the others shouted. The little friends jumped up and down on the blanket until it got dark. Long after they were all in bed asleep, the wind blew up again and carried the kite far, far away.
Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Santa. One snowy morning, Dolly the ladybird turned to Berry the snail and said, "Hey Berry, Santa's coming tonight."
Really?
Berry wondered. That's right. He leaves presents in the boots of good children. Remember to put your boots in the window. That evening, Berry cleaned his boots and popped them in the window. He was so excited when he went to bed that he couldn't get to sleep. He stared out at the sky to see when Santa would appear with his reindeer sleigh. Dolly got up early the next morning. She ran straight to the window. Her boots were packed with presents, colouring pencils and a big red apple. Berry ran straight to his window too. He was very excited. He couldn't wait to see what Santa had brought him. But oh dear, his little boots were empty. Berry was so upset that he didn't see the huge red parcel in the other window. He looked inside his boots again and again. He shook them upside down, but there was nothing in them. He was so sad that he decided to run away. Santa didn't bring me anything, but I've been such a good little snail. Dolly went over to Berry's house. Hello! Look what I got from Santa. Dolly started to worry. She knocked and knocked, but Berry didn't open the door. Where's Berry gone? I have to find him. Stanley the stag beetle, Balthazar the bee and Flutter the butterfly went with her. Berry?
Berry!
Berry! Berry! Berry! It was getting dark by the time the four friends found Berry. He was sitting on a tree stump and crying. Dolly ran to him. What's wrong, Berry? What happened? Santa didn't bring me anything, but I've been such a good little snail. Don't be silly. I'm sure you got a present, Dolly reassured her friend. Maybe it was so big, Santa couldn't fit it in your boots and he put it somewhere else. No, I didn't get anything. I don't think Santa's real at all. Just then, a sleigh appeared in the sky. It was being pulled by two reindeers. Ho, ho, ho! Santa waved at the children. I hope you all liked your presents. See you again next year. Berry was so surprised. Let's all go to Berry's and look for his present. The little snail felt much better already. They saw the big red parcel the minute they walked into Berry's house.
Look, your present's in the other window.
There it is. It's wonderful. Berry opened the present. It was a colourful wind chime. When Berry shook it, the little bells knocked into each other and made a pretty tinkling sound. It's beautiful. Stanley fixed the wind chime by the door and they all said good night to Berry. Berry jumped happily into bed and fell fast asleep to the tinkling of the chime.
Berry Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The big spider. Berry, Dolly, Flutter and Balthazar were gathering colourful leaves in the woods when they heard someone crying. Can you hear something, Berry? Dolly asked. Yes, it's coming from the cave. The friends were frightened, but went deeper and deeper into the dark cave. Then they saw where the noise was coming from. A baby beetle sat crying. Oh dear, what's wrong, baby beetle? Why are you crying? I got lost in this dark cave and I can't find my way out. How am I going to get back to my little house? What's your name? Berry asked. Bubble. Come on, don't be sad, Bubble. We'll show you the way to your house, Dolly said and hugged the baby beetle. Suddenly, they heard a scary sound from deep inside the cave. They hugged each other. All of a sudden, a big, angry spider appeared and shouted at them. Who woke me up? What are you doing in my cave?
Run, everybody!
Balthazar yelled, and they all ran. Let's hide here, Dolly said, and they all hid behind a rock. Luckily, the spider didn't spot them, but then Bubble started crying, and the spider found their hiding place. Berry, Dolly, Bubble, Balthazar and Flutter ran as fast as they could. But oh dear, Balthazar tumbled over a stone and the big spider caught up with them. Berry grabbed a spiky twig and bravely defended his friends. Go away, you ugly spider! Berry diverted the big spider's attention while Flutter and Balthazar ran around it with a length of thread. Dolly looked after little Bubble and kept him safe.
We've got you now!
Balthazar shouted triumphantly. The spider tried to get out of the tangle, but it couldn't. And then it started to cry. I didn't want to hurt you. I've never hurt anybody before. I was just mad because you woke me up. Please let me go. I'll show you the way out of the cave. Do you promise you really won't hurt us? Berry asked. Yes, I promise. Climb on my back and I'll carry you out. They all sat on the spider's back and were soon outside again. It's time for us to say goodbye. Please come and see me again. Thank you for your help, Spider, Flutter said. Bubble had fallen asleep in the ladybird's arms. What should we do with him? Puzzled Dolly. Let's build a pram, Berry suggested. And they got to work immediately. They made him a pram out of a horse chestnut shell with wheels out of little logs. But where does he live? I know, Flutter said. The baby beetle didn't wake up until they reached his house. Oh, my little house. Have you brought me home? Thank you so much. Good night, little Bubble. Sleep tight and don't go into that cave all by yourself again because you'll get lost, Berry and Dolly said. Then they gave Bubble a hug.
the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Christmas. It was a crisp winter day and Berry the snail and Dolly the ladybird went into the woods to look for a bunch of Christmas greenery. Look, Berry, this little tree got knocked over in the storm. Let's take it home. We can decorate it for Christmas. Hooray! We'll have a real Christmas tree, Berry shouted. They lifted the tree up and saw a centipede sheltering under its branches. Help me, Berry. Let's put him on the sledge. He's hurt himself and looks very cold. We can take him to my house. They lifted the centipede carefully onto the sledge. Will he be all right? Berry worried. Of course he will, Dolly reassured her friend. When they got home, they put the poorly centipede to bed. Dolly made him hot tea and Berry read him caterpillar stories from a storybook. Next morning, the centipede opened his eyes and smiled a little smile. He got better every day and soon he was healthy again. Dolly asked him to stay. You're so nice. Don't go, centipede. Spend Christmas with us. Well, thank you. I'd love to stay. But what should we get him for Christmas? Dolly wondered. What would make a centipede happy? Dolly told him her idea. The little snail nodded excitedly. Berry and Dolly went to see the ants. The queen ant welcomed them with open arms. Dolly told them what kind of present she'd thought of. We can make anything you want, said the queen. Christmas came and Berry and Dolly made a tree stand. As night fell, Berry gave Dolly her present. Merry Christmas, Dolly. Thank you, Berry, the ladybird said. She was delighted. It's beautiful. Dolly was very happy and wound the pretty ribbon around the tree. Merry Christmas to you too, Dolly said, and handed Berry his present. Sparklers, super! Let's put them on the tree. They lit the sparklers and crackling sparks danced around the Christmas tree. The glittering light attracted lots of tiny fireflies, and each brought a Christmas decoration. Even the centipede helped to trim the tree. Soon the ants arrived carrying a parcel. They handed it to Berry and Dolly. This is our present to you, centipede, Berry said to him. Merry Christmas. Boots! He shouted happily. They'll keep your little feet warm when you're walking in the snow, Dolly explained. The friends' celebrations went on late into the night. There was Eddie the potato beetle, Stanley the stag beetle, Alphonso the cricket, and Rosita the rose beetle. The fireflies built a big snowman with the little ants. They all sang and danced around the Christmas tree. Flutter the butterfly came to celebrate with them. Zephyr the dragonfly danced with Leapy the grasshopper. Berry and Dolly skipped around with Balthazar the bee. When the party was over, the centipede cleaned his boots and put them on a shelf. What a wonderful day I've had. It's a shame that Christmas only comes once a year.
Berry the the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Witches. It was a warm summer day and Berry, Dolly and their friends were talking about witches.
Do you really think witches exist?
Balthazar the bee asked.
And they fly around on broomsticks at night? I'm not sure.
Berry mumbled. Then Berry and Dolly decided to walk home. Why don't we come back here later? We might see some witches, the ladybird suggested. They packed themselves a tasty picnic and went back to the meadow. They stared at the sky for a long time, but nothing happened. Come on, Dolly, let's go home. I don't think witches are real. Dolly stopped and stared. Berry, I just heard a strange noise from behind that tree. Oh, Berry, the leaves are moving. The two friends hugged each other in fright. A witch suddenly flew out and Berry and Dolly screamed. Then another witch appeared in the sky. Run, Berry, run and hide. And they ran as fast as they could. The two of them hid behind a bush. Oh, Dolly, it's too bad our friends aren't here with us. Just then the two witches landed, took off their capes and hats, and turned to smile.
But your friends are here.
It was us, Flutter and Balthazar. This made Dolly very mad. Really? You were the witches? It was very mean of you to scare us like that.
It was only meant to be a joke,
Balthazar explained. Berry was angry too. It was a very bad joke. You'll be sorry you did this. And the two friends stomped off home. We should play a joke on them now, Berry.
Do you think we should scare them too?
That's it, Dolly exclaimed. I've got an idea. Flutter and Balthazar were left standing in the meadow.
What should we do now?
They felt a bit ashamed. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea after all. Berry and Dolly ran to the ladybird's house and dressed up as little devils. They put black clothes on with black hats and added red horns to make themselves look like real devils. Hurry, Dolly! Berry was impatient. I can see them coming. They quickly jumped behind a bush and waited for Flutter and Balthazar to get close. Then they jumped out and scared the living daylights out of their friends. Help!
Devils!
The butterfly and the bee screamed.
Now do you see how bad it is when someone scares you?
The little snail said.
What? Is that you, Berry? That was a really nasty thing to do.
Nasty thing? Your witches were much scarier, Berry shouted. That's not true. The devils were scarier. That's enough, Dolly told them off. Stop this silly arguing. Let's be friends. We promise never to do it again. But you have to promise not to scare us either. You're right, the others nodded. Do you want to try the devil's hats on? Dolly asked.
Yes, please. You can try our witches' hats on if you like and sit on our broomsticks.
Whippy! This is super! Berry whooped. We're flying just like witches.
Yes,
Balthazar agreed.
like real witches.
Berry the the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Kindergarten. One autumn morning, Dolly knocked excitedly on Berry's door. Come quickly, Berry, or we'll be late. Berry got ready and the two friends held hands and walked to the nursery together. Lots of little children were gathered in the playground. They were all so happy to see each other. There was Balthazar the bee, Flutter the butterfly, Stanley the stag beetle, Eddie the potato beetle, Zephyr the dragonfly, Alphonso the cricket, Leapy the grasshopper, and Bubble the baby beetle. Mrs. Bumblebee patiently guided everybody into their classrooms. The little, middle and top children went into different rooms. Bubble was in the little group. He waved to Berry and Dolly from the doorway. The day started with exercises. After breakfast, the children made beautiful pictures using the leaves they collected in the woods. When everybody had finished, Mrs. Bumblebee gathered the children in a circle. She taught them lots of songs and games. The children all danced around. Then it was playtime. Mrs. Bumblebee sat in a rocking chair and watched the children. Berry and the boys ran straight over to the car box and started playing cars. They built ramps and tunnels. Can I join in, boys? Dolly asked. She was holding a broken red car. Oh no, Dolly, you can't play cars with that old thing, Berry told her. And anyway, cars are for boys, not girls. That made Dolly cry. The boys don't want to play with me, she told Flutter. Flutter, Leapy and Zephyr quickly cheered her up. Come and play with us. We're playing with dolls. The girls dressed their dolls in pretty dresses, fed them and rocked them to sleep. Dolly liked this game a lot. Then Berry got into an argument with Morris the Maybug. You keep knocking my car over. It's not fair. You're a cheat. That's not true. You're a cheat, replied Morris. That's it. I'm not playing with you anymore, Berry said sulkily and left the boys. Can I join in your game? Berry asked his friend Dolly. You can't play with us. It's a girls' game, Dolly sulked. But I brought this doll with me. It's got curly hair. I want to play with you. All right. Come and play with us. But now you have to let me play cars with you. Children, time to wash your hands, Mrs. Bumblebee shouted. Then go and sit down at the tables. Mrs. Earwig, the dinner lady, dished up their dinner. When everybody had finished eating, Berry and Dolly collected up all the plates and glasses. Then the children had a little lie down while Mrs. Bumblebee read them a story. They all listened in silence, and a few of them fell fast asleep. When they got up, they all had a snack and went out into the playground. It was enormous and filled with all kinds of slides, climbing frames and swings, with a big wooden train in the middle. Berry and Morris quickly made friends again and played on the swings together. Dolly helped Bubble up the slide and caught him at the bottom. Bubble liked that a lot. The rest of the day flew by, and soon the children were waving goodbye to each other. They couldn't wait for tomorrow to come.
Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The Little Bumblebee. Early one morning, Berry, Dolly and Balthazar went out to play in the meadow. They wanted to try out the new parachute the little bee had made. But a little bumblebee was picking lilac flowers and singing a happy song.
The winter's gone and it's the spring. Lilac is my favourite thing.
Balthazar was the first to greet her.
Hello, little bumblebee. My name's Balthazar. This is Berry the snail and Dolly the ladybird. Who are you?
My name's Betty. I was flying home and I decided to stop and pick lilac flowers in the meadow.
We're on our way to try this new parachute. Do you want to come with us?
Balthazar asked.
I'd love to.
Balthazar and Betty were the first to jump, and then the other friends tried the colourful parachute. They played until it got dark.
Will you play with us again tomorrow?
Balthazar asked excitedly.
I can't. I have to leave early tomorrow morning. My home is far away from here, and I still have a long way to go.
So Berry, Dolly and Balthazar said goodbye to Betty. Balthazar looked very upset, so Dolly asked him, "What's wrong?"
Balthazar's got a girlfriend.
Berry laughed.
Don't make fun of him, Berry,
Dolly said angrily.
You know what, Balthazar? Ask Betty to stay here. We can build her a house in the woods.
That's a super idea. I'll go to the meadow tomorrow morning and ask her to stay.
Balthazar, Dolly and Berry got up very early the next day. They hurried to the meadow to talk to Betty. But the friends were too late. The little bumblebee had already left. The only thing they found was a farewell note she'd left for them pinned to a tree. Balthazar sat down on the grass and started to cry. Berry didn't laugh at him this time. "Let's go after her," the little snail said. "I'm sure we can catch her up."
Berry, you're such a slow snail. We'll never catch up with Betty if you don't hurry up.
Berry was going to say something back to Balthazar when a hedgehog stepped out of the bushes. "Perhaps I can help. I'm not too fast, but I'm sure I'm much faster than you three." The friends liked the idea. They built a little cart out of a horse chestnut shell and tied it to the hedgehog's spikes. The hedgehog cart was ready to roll.
Let's rest a little while,
Dolly suggested when it got dark.
We'll carry on tomorrow morning.
Balthazar started to cry again.
We'll never find her.
I can smell something sweet. It's lilac blossom.
Lilac? Dolly wondered.
But there aren't any lilac bushes around here. Let's look around.
Would you like to come back and live with us? We could build you a little bumblebee house in a tree. You wouldn't have to fly back to your faraway home. We'd be so happy if you lived with us.
That's a super idea. We'd all be very happy.
Berry and Dolly nodded.
Thank you. I'd love to come and live with you,
Betty replied. She was happy.
You came all this way to find me. That's so nice of you.
They all jumped into the hedgehog cart and trundled back to the meadow. They started to build the house the very next morning. They built Betty a pretty treehouse near the lilac field. When the bumblebee's house was ready, they had a big party. All the forest friends were invited. They danced and ate late into the night and made their new neighbour very welcome indeed.
Berry Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The Snowman. One cold winter morning, Berry the snail knocked on Dolly's front door.
Let's go and play with my sledge in the snow.
Dolly quickly put on her winter coat and her hat, scarf and gloves. She sat on the sledge and the little snail pulled her along. Eventually, the snow stopped. Berry and Dolly enjoyed the winter sunshine. They sledged down the steep side of the hill.
Look at that super snowman!
Berry shouted. Oh dear, we're going to hit it! But it was too late. The sledge ran right into the snowman that stood at the foot of the hill. Did you hurt yourself? Berry asked Dolly. No, I didn't, but I think we've ruined the snowman. Yes, it tipped right over, Berry said. I'm going to eat its carrot nose. Let's have a snowball fight with the snow from the snowman. Berry and Dolly started to throw snowballs. It was a lot of fun. Soon there was almost nothing left of the snowman. Just then, Balthazar the bee appeared and said hello to his friends. Do you want to throw snowballs with us?
I'm too busy. I've brought a hat and a scarf to put on my snowman I built yesterday. Haven't you seen it?
Berry and Dolly looked at each other.
Oh dear,
Berry whispered.
Balthazar must be looking for the snowman we hit.
They didn't dare tell Balthazar that they'd knocked his snowman over. No, we haven't seen a snowman.
I can't find my snowman anywhere.
Berry and Dolly felt very sorry for the little bee. Don't be sad, Berry said finally. Let's build a new one. Okay, Balthazar sniffled. Dolly made the biggest snowball. It went on the bottom. Balthazar made the middle one for the snowman's tummy. And Berry made the smallest snowball for the snowman's head. Then Dolly lifted Berry up so he could stick the head on top. Then the snowman was finished and Balthazar could finally put the stripy scarf around its neck. Berry took a big jump and put the red saucepan on its head for a hat.
Hey, it looks really super,
Balthazar said enthusiastically. Balthazar, we've got something to tell you. We smashed your first snowman. We slid right into it with our sledge. It was an accident.
What? It was you?
Balthazar was very surprised, but then he soon forgave his friends.
This snowman looks much better than the first one,
he declared.
Come on, let's sledge down the hill together.
Berry, Dolly and Balthazar played with the sledge until it got dark and were very careful not to hit their new snowman.
Berry Berry the little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Sea adventure. One summer day, Berry the snail and Dolly the ladybird found a colourful storybook. It was packed with pretty pictures of the sea swimming with fish and crabs. And there was another strange animal that Berry had never seen.
It's called an octopus, but I've never seen a real one either.
Why don't we go to the sea? Berry asked excitedly.
But we don't know where the sea is, Berry.
I know, let's ask Dr. Owl. He knows everything. Do you know how to get to the sea, Dr. Owl?
You need to build a boat and sail down the stream. The stream will take you to the river, and the river flows right into the sea.
Berry and Dolly thanked Dr. Owl for his advice and got to work right away. The 3 owl chicks happily helped them build their boat. The 2 friends jumped in, and the stream carried them all the way to the sea.
Hooray! We're going to see the sea.
The wind blew their boat down the stream and then the river. It wasn't long before the vast blue sea was right in front of them.
We're here!
Yelled Berry. He pulled the boat to the shore and tied it to a palm tree.
Come on, Dolly. Let's dive to the bottom of the sea.
The 2 friends saw all kinds of incredible creatures under the sea. They spotted a big crab and followed it to the surface.
Excuse me, can you tell us where we can find a real octopus?
Asked Dolly.
Hold on to my pincers, and I'll show you the little island where the octopus likes to sunbathe.
The crab helped them to the island and swam away. The octopus was much bigger than they'd imagined, and it frightened them. Berry and Dolly hid behind a big rock. Then the octopus had a good idea. It picked up some pebbles and started to juggle them with its 8 tentacles. The little ladybird and the snail crept out from behind the rock.
Come over here,
The octopus said.
I'll show you the prettiest pebbles on my island.
Berry and Dolly quickly made friends with the octopus, and they all had so much fun.
It's time for us to go,
Said Dolly.
Goodbye. It was very nice to meet you.
Bye-bye,
replied the octopus, and gave them both a shiny pebble each. Berry and Dolly got into the boat and tried to paddle away, but it was too hard.
Oh dear, Berry, we won't be able to manage. We'll have to get out of the boat.
Dolly was really scared.
See, Berry, I told you we shouldn't have sailed so far from home.
I think you're right, Dolly. But then the stone started to move.
Why are you so sad, little snail?
The stone asked. This made Berry laugh. It wasn't a stone after all. It was a turtle.
My friends, the rainbow fish, are about to begin their long journey. They'll swim up the stream all the way to the source. I'm sure they'd be happy to take you with them.
Berry and Dolly said goodbye to the turtle and sat on the back of the captain fish. Then they all set off on their way home. By the time it was getting dark, the fish had reached the clearing where the ladybird's spotty house stood. Berry and Dolly thanked the fish for their help, and they swam away.
See, Dolly? All's well that ends well,
the little snail said wisely.
Berry little snail and Dolly the ladybird play with their forest friends in their happy little world. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the little snail, always fun games to play, always a brand new tale. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Alphonso's Fiddle. One autumn day, Alphonso the cricket stood happily playing his fiddle in the mushroom field. The forest friends were all enjoying the lovely music. The little ants were playing football on the hill. But oh dear, the ball bounced away and knocked the fiddle clean out of Alphonso's hands. Alphonso shouted in horror.
My fiddle! My fiddle's broken!
And then he burst into tears. He was sobbing so loudly that everyone came to see what the fuss was all about. Alphonso pointed angrily at the spotty ball.
That ball is to blame, and those naughty ants. Where am I going to get a fiddle from now?
He picked his broken fiddle up, went into his house and slammed the door shut behind him. Alphonso, come out. I'm sure we can help you, Berry pleaded. But Alphonso didn't want to see anybody. His friends sat sadly in the mushroom field and didn't know what to do. Then Dolly had an idea.
I know. Let's make Alphonso a new fiddle. Yes, let's make a new fiddle.
Flutter the butterfly nodded.
I know who can help us. We have to find Charlie the click beetle. He made Alphonso's first fiddle.
The band of friends set off and walked until they reached a blue house. They knocked on the door. A tiny, timid beetle popped his head out. He wore a blue hat and had beautiful dark blue wings.
Who are you?
He asked. Dolly told Charlie the whole story.
Oh, don't be sad. If that's your problem, I'm happy to help. Alphonso will be playing music on his new fiddle in no time at all.
The click beetle gave everybody a job to do. Some collected wood for the body of the fiddle, while others gathered grass for the strings. Now he had everything he needed. Charlie got to work. He sawed, sanded, polished and waxed. And then, like a little miracle, the new fiddle was ready.
Can I try it?
Dolly asked.
No, it's Alphonso's instrument,
Flutter told her.
But I want to have my own musical instrument.
Dolly sulked.
Me too,
the little ants shouted.
Quiet,
said Charlie.
Why don't you all start an orchestra? A great big orchestra. Like a music band? And everybody could have their own instrument? That's a very good idea.
The first thing they made was a harp for Dolly. Stanley the stag beetle got a double bass, and Eddie the potato beetle had a cello. Berry made a trumpet out of a lily. Morris the maybug made a horn from a honeysuckle flower. The big spider used horse chestnuts and acorns for drums, whilst Zephyr and Leapy made cymbals out of pebbles. Charlie carved flutes from birch twigs for the ants. Flutter the butterfly got a lute, and Balthazar the bee got a zither. Bubble the baby beetle played a triangle. They all had a quick practice and then headed for Alphonso's house. Alphonso heard the music and looked out of his window to see where it was coming from. He was surprised by what he saw.
Please, Alphonso,
the little ant began.
Don't be mad at us for breaking your fiddle. We'd like you to have this new one as a present. Charlie made it.
Alphonso began to play straight away, and the sound of his fiddle filled the forest once more.